Have you ever looked at a watch and thought, wow, that costs more than a car or even a house? Well, today we're cracking open the vault on Rolex to figure out exactly how these incredible timepieces became such powerful, sought-after investments.
So let's just get right to the heart of it. We're looking at a Rolex. Is it just a really, really nice watch? Or is it something more? Is it a portable, tangible asset that can sometimes outperform traditional investments? That's the big question.
It really comes down to this powerful trifecta. First, you've got brand recognition that is just off the charts. Second, a level of demand that never seems to quit. And third, a rock-solid reputation for holding its value. That's the secret sauce that turns a luxury good into a financial tool.
But it's not just about slapping the Rolex crown on any old watch. We're going to dig in and break down which specific models are the true heavy hitters in the investment world, and, more importantly, why. What are the stories and the features that make them so special?
Okay, first up, let's talk about the rock stars of the Rolex catalog. These are way more than just watches. They are legitimate cultural icons. You see them on the wrists of movie stars, musicians, racing legends. And yeah, that fame, it translates directly into value.
And if you're going to talk about icons, you pretty much have to start with the Daytona. I mean, come on. It is an absolute legend in the watch world, and you could easily argue it's the most famous sports chronograph ever made.
The backstory on the Daytona is just fantastic. Of course, it's got motorsport in its DNA, but what really sent it into the stratosphere was its connection to Hollywood legends like Paul Newman. When his actual watch sold for a mind-blowing, record-shattering price, the Daytona became a global phenomenon. You add in the cool watch nerd history, like using the famous El Primero movement, and it's easy to see why guys like John Mayer and Ed Sheeran still call it their Grail watch.
And this is where you can really see the power of that history. A modern Daytona is already a very serious asset. But look at the Zenith model with its special movement. The value can double. But the vintage Paul Newman models, we are talking about a completely different universe. Hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's just a perfect example of how rarity and a great story can create absolutely astronomical value.
All right, so let's go from the racetrack to the deep blue sea. Our next icon is the undisputed king of the deep, the Rolex Submariner. It's the quintessential dive watch. You can spot this thing from a mile away, and it is always in demand. A huge part of the Submariner's charm is its personality. Collectors have given different versions these amazing nicknames, like the Green Kermit and Hulk, or the vintage Red Sub. And of course, having James Bond wear one on screen, that pretty much sealed its reputation for toughness and cool forever. You see modern icons like David Beckham wearing them, and with Rolex keeping supply tight, the value just keeps on climbing.
And you can see these clear steps in value right here. You've got desirable models like the Kermit that form a solid base. Then you take a significant jump up to coveted editions like the Hulk. But the really rare vintage pieces, like the James Bond reference, whoa, that's where the value just explodes, easily blowing past 50,000 pounds.
Okay, so moving beyond the big pop culture icons, there's a whole other category of watches that were designed as straight-up, hardcore professional tools. These things were built for adventurers pushing the absolute limits, whether on land, at sea, or high up in the air.
Case in point, the GMT Master. This is the classic pilot's watch. It was actually developed for Pan Am pilots way back in the day so they could track multiple time zones on long-haul flights. And its two-tone bezel became an instant design classic.
And just like the Submariner, the GMT Master has some of the best nicknames in the game. You've got the blue and red Pepsi, the blue and black Batman, and the brown and black Root Beer. These names are a huge part of the watch's identity and its appeal, which is why it's a favorite of stars like Tom Hardy and Orlando Bloom.
Now check this out. Here we've got two of Rolex's most extreme tool watches. The Sea Dweller is basically a Submariner on steroids. It was built for professional saturation divers and even has this innovative helium escape valve to stop the crystal from popping off during decompression. Wild. Then you've got the Explorer, a watch that's forever tied to the conquest of Mount Everest. Both were built to survive the planet's absolute harshest environments.
So you might be thinking, okay, they're tough tool watches, but how valuable can they be? Well, get this. A vintage double red Sea Dweller, named for its two lines of red text on the dial, can fetch up to 90,000 pounds. That is a piece of rugged equipment that has become a top-tier asset.
The Explorer 2 has its own icon too, the reference 1655, which everyone calls the Steve McQueen. It's got this kind of quirky, very 1970s design with a big, bright orange hand that's made it a total cult classic. and its value definitely matches that status, up to £40,000.
Right, let's shift gears a little, because not all valuable Rolexes are big, rugged sports models. This next category is all about timeless design, versatility, and just classic elegance.
And this is where you really see the incredible range of Rolex. You've got the Oyster Perpetual. It's just a masterclass in understated luxury, a favorite of Roger Federer and Rihanna. Then there's the Datejust, maybe the most versatile watch ever made, a true classic. Collectors go crazy for rare versions like the Buckley Dial. Then you have something totally different, the Milgauss, a marvel built for scientists with that iconic lightning bolt seconds hand in green crystal. And for pure black tie events, the Cellini is a regal dress watch seen on stars like Daniel Day-Lewis.
And then there's this, the King Midas. This watch is unlike any other Rolex. It is pure 1970s audacity. Inspired by the Greek Parthenon of all things, its asymmetrical design is like a piece of wearable sculpture. And crucially, it was a true limited, numbered edition, which is something Rolex almost never did.
That combination of rarity and absolutely unique design makes the King Midas a serious collector's piece, commanding prices of £35,000 or even more. Its value comes not from its function, but from its status as a limited edition work of art.
So we've seen all these amazing models, but what really separates a great watch from a great investment? Well, beyond just the name on the dial, there are a few very specific factors that can maximize a watch's value.
Look, for any of these watches to hit that peak value, 4 things are pretty much non-negotiable. You need the original papers and documentation, you need the complete box set it came in, the watch has to be in excellent physical condition, and you need verifiable provenance, which is just a clear history of ownership. Without these 4 things, you're simply not getting top-tier value, period.
And that brings us full circle. You combine one of these iconic models with those 4 keys to value, and you totally transform it. It's no longer just a watch. It becomes a portable asset with real-world liquidity.
So this leaves us with a pretty fascinating question, doesn't it? What truly defines an object's value? Is it its function, the incredible engineering? Is it the rich history and the stories behind it? Or, at the end of the day, is it simply the powerful, unwavering force of human demand? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us.